Hello, animators and artists. Jake and Maggie Hollander recently released the pilot episode of their upcoming series of shorts called My Wife the Monster. Jake is a director who worked on Krapopolis, Bad Crimes, and Duncanville, while Maggie is a senior designer who has worked with brands like BRKthrough and Mocel. Together, they founded Studio Ursa. We invited Jake and Maggie onto our live stream to discuss the production process behind the recent short, as well as discuss their experiences. So, Jake and Maggie, welcome to our live stream.
Hey.
All right, I'm really excited to have you both here today. And the first question I want to ask is, what is your origin story? What was your experience in art and animation like up to producing the short?
Maggie, you want to take it away first?
Nope, all you.
Okay. Yeah. So we both had a story we wanted to tell, and the best way to do it is together. And we always had this inside joke, and our relationship is a huge inspiration. And we wanted to make something we both cared about, and that was our journey to get to creating it. And we continue to enjoy doing it and creating that together.
Yeah, I think that we both have been working professionally in our own fields for over 10 years at this point. And, you know, we're artists and we do that as our jobs, but it was really exciting to be able to do something on our own in our own time for us. So this was definitely a labor of love and something that was kind of refreshing to be able to work on an art piece that was uniquely us.
Yeah, and now that I'm inspired by what Maggie said, yeah, it's really, you know, in any job, you know, you do your best to produce whatever the job entails, but after that, like, you really think about, like, what do you try to put out there? What do you try to do? What's your mark as an artist or storyteller? And you know, sometimes it's more than what the job can give you, and you want to expand on that and put things you care about. Sorry, my cat is just like, hey, this is my table now. Oh, and there she goes. There you go. Yeah. Cool.
So, I mean, it can be difficult to like take on creative projects when your day job is also very creative. Like it can sort of draw from like the same resource that you're using. How do you find like the energy to work on a project like this?
It's hard. It's, you know, it's one of those push and pull things. I think My Wife the Monster in particular is kind of a unique project for us because it's our life. And so this project in particular is so easy for us to create. You know, a lot of this started when we were just sitting around in coffee shops, hanging out, eating muffins, and enjoying each other's company rather. And we would just be like, you know, what if we had this idea? What if we did this? Oh man, it's so weird when you do that. Like, let's talk about that. And, you know, so much of it was just riffs and having fun and just something that we kind of enjoy doing together as like a date night situation. So I think it kind of evolved really naturally. And I think we've also been trying not to put a ton of pressure on ourselves. Well, maybe Jake has to, you know, execute, because you do have to get it done, obviously. So you do need to put the time into it. So I'll pass the baton to Jake. He definitely did a lot of the work.
But yeah, well, to what Maggie's saying, it's just when you do something, and like I'm definitely a romantic, you know, like every time I'm sitting here drawing pictures, I'm actively giggling and smiling and thinking of all the beautiful moments that Maggie and I have had together. I get really emotional sometimes when I talk about this, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try to keep it real. But like when you see that, when you feel that, and you're creating that, it feels effortless. And the beauty of just drawing all day at work, doing things like as a job, and like knowing the difference between like the technical aspects and the creative aspects. It's like you build all the tools you need to just let yourself make what you want, right? And like I have a seemingly infinite amount of energy to work on this project, it seems like. So for me, like it's not hard to find the motivation or the energy or the drive to do it, because like I'm working at work all day and then I'm just like, I can't wait to get back to this, you know? So for me, it's just like one of those things. Like I'm having so much fun thinking about it while I'm doing it that it's easy to do it. And
Well,
and you know, it's all like the the drawing the lines literally on the page that.
Well, let's get into it. How would you describe the My Wife the Monster pilot?
Go ahead, honey.
Okay. I feel like the pilot was genuinely just an introduction to how we wanted to play around with it. Maggie and I were talking a lot about, well, what's in a pilot, what's in a thing, right? And the focus we wanted to do was just showcase the characters, right? If we can, get as much personality in the shortest amount of time, and showcase the fact that I really wanted to see cool monster effects, right? And like figure that out. So we went through, we just talked a lot about the characters, and most of it, the focus for me was like really nailing down what like Maggie's character looked like. And we went back and forth with like skin color and outfits, and Maggie was like, I have a really good idea about what she would wear and what the skin color was and how we can make it look like a human, but also like there's that monstrous element. And we always joke about Maggie being like a cat. So I really wanted to add a lot of cat-like elements. So the eyes and the movement that you'll see in like further shorts, but just like very nimble, very cat-like, right? And she actually is very cat-like in real life. So she's very nimble. She can jump around and all, whatever. But so that was the focus of what we wanted to put in this. And then it was as simple as, okay, what does a moment in their life look like? And then we kind of started writing from that. What do you think, Maggie? Did I miss things?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely you nailed it on the head there. I think the pilot for me, it's such a good encapsulation of the whole show, the whole concept, the whole idea, which is that, you know, there's this expectation, there's this climax, you don't know what's going on, and then we find out. We just really want to toy a lot with expectations, right? Because that's the whole point with the title, My Wife the Monster. It's all about kind of playing with perspectives and what you might expect. So, and a big part of it too was that, you know, originally this took the format of a comic, and there was a point where Jake was just like, I want to move stuff, I want to animate. And so a big part of the pilot for us was just for him to get to play and do what he wants. He loves action, so there's action in it. So that was one thing we wanted to tie into the pilot, was just that play that is so fun about animation. And then, of course, you know, there's, if you watch the short, there's a bit of a reveal at the end. And like another thing we really want to play with this series is all the fun stuff you can do with a monster. We kind of have it fairly undefined on purpose, so that we can just have fun and be creative and just really let our imaginations fly with this character who is so bizarre paired with this character who is a human, who is us, who is the audience.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's really interesting because I find that attitudes about monsters have like changed or maybe complicated in recent years. Like you'll see examples like The Shape of Water, where people identify more with monsters than in the past, where like monsters were more of like anxieties that were externalized. What's your view about like how attitudes towards monsters have changed, or like what the term monster means?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's just so interesting because, you know, in the conception of My Wife the Monster, it was about our communication methods. I am a textbook introvert. Jake is a textbook extrovert. So we had a lot of difficulties starting out in our relationship just communicating. And we kind of had that joke running that, you know, if I can't communicate with you, if I don't understand you, are you a monster? You know? and it's funny, it's ironic. And I think it revolves around the idea of just different perspectives. Monsters are creatures that you might not understand. They might seem frightening, but it's just somebody with a different perspective. It's somebody who's just different than you. So yeah, I think it's a really fascinating concept to explore. Pass it to Jake.
Yeah, I mean, Maggie hit it, and the most fun aspect is anything can be a monster in your own mind. I remember seeing a lot of shorts online, very specifically where there was this one that I really loved. I can't remember the name of it, but the alligator was a manifestation of the character's anxiety, right? And the thing you can do with a character who can manifest their emotions is nearly infinite. And it doesn't need to just like the beauty of, you know, the characters in this just being extensions of us is that relationships are all communication, like Maggie said. And one of the foundational facets of what we want to play with and what we will be playing with is the communication itself can be the conflict, can be the monster, the thing that you're overcoming. And when you see that manifestation, you see like, well, maybe when the whatever monstrous thing is unleashed, it's how our characters work through it to understand the root of that monster. And again, I will repeat this a lot, but as Maggie was saying, you know, a monster can be anything at all. And it doesn't need to be this evil thing that's trying to kill you. It can be as simple as an obstacle. It can be as simple as a thing you don't understand but want to, you know? And like, I feel like it's just a human concept. The conception, the invention of monsters in our lives and stories and everything is just us as humans trying to understand our world. And it's an infinite playground.
Yeah, I saw an article in Animation Magazine, not Animation Magazine, it was in Keyframe Animation, about how like one of animation's like superpowers is being able to portray like people's internal thoughts as like text. It makes like subtext into like the thing that's actually happening on screen. So like you can see like people's anxieties like manifested in like the way that like the art style could change, or you could have sort of a glimpse into someone's like interior life, and that is like what you show on screen.
Yeah, and it's exciting because I'm really excited about this next one because we already got the script down, and Maggie's exploring the designs for the next version of the characters. And the beauty of animation is you can have characters in different styles in every iteration and play around with how you want things to feel and look. And Maggie's the color master in this relationship. And the way we play around with that, the way we express it, color has a lot of emotional impact, a lot of effect. And design has that same effect. And you can identify these characters even if they look a little different, but the tone can be completely different. And that tone and look and color can be entirely interpreted by how you approach it. So probably leave that probably pass it to you, Maggie, on that one.
Wait, what was the question about?
I don't remember actually.
So I guess my question would just be like, how do you think about like animation as a medium in terms of like externalizing what the characters feel internally?
Right. No, 100%. It's a really fun challenge. And honestly, I don't know why, but it feels kind of natural to kind of imagine some of these manifestations of this monster, because we've all been there. I feel like a lot of what this character, who is the wife, who is the monster, her manifestations are just emotions. because I know I myself and Jake too, and that's something we're going to play with in the series, is that emotions are just difficult. Not everybody is emotionally intelligent, and it's something that I really struggle with myself. And it's something that we've been working on throughout our relationship with each other and for each other and on ourselves. So for me, you know, in this short in particular, she's frustrated with work and she's losing control and not even realizing it. You know, and I think that she has like this big tornado around her and everything, and it's like I feel it all the time. And it's such a good visual of how anybody could feel in those similar situations. And it's been really fun playing with what that means, what a monster is, and what emotions look like in that form, because it can take the form of anything. She can summon stuff, she can create anything, you know, it's limitless. So it's just a really fun challenge that I'm excited about.
Well, I think a really good illustration of that is the scene that Jake has on screen right now. Can you tell us a little bit about the sequence and like how you put it together?
Go for it.
Oh yeah. So first you boarded it, I boarded it, and then I just thought about how the layers will overlap and intersect, and then I just do that usual animation thing where you just give the illusion of depth and motion. But the thought process behind the shadows are, now bear with me here, it's going to get abstract, right? But you ever whether it's a friend, somebody you love, anyone you know well enough, when you just enter a room and you know something's up, you just know something's wrong, right? And and it may not be a thing you can identify yet, but it's something you navigate, right? And you can get as dramatic with it or as simple with it as you can. But these shadows kind of represent the physical vibe in the room when you know somebody you care about is either frustrated about something, dealing with something, and you know, this is just the exaggerated version of how you navigate it. And that's the main focus of this. And the silly answer is also, I just love drawing excessive like action that makes like me enjoy the medium of animation, right? So the visual
there's
concept,
like a hop, a roll, and a hop.
Yeah. Like I just want, so first off, I really wanted to show the intensity of the moment, and the previous scene is like the close up of the shadow tentacle hitting the door. So what I really wanted to show is like, one, the jerkiness and impact of the character escaping, because you see that there's real consequences if that thing hits him, and then just like the way, like I just really like the jump towards the screen, because it's just a fun like gorgeous movement towards the next scene, which is more of a comedy bit, because you know, I grew up on anime, we all did, and there's a certain like jerkiness that anime has when you're animating, where you can like draw on like 4s or 6s, where it's just like shifting poses, and there's something comedic about it. But the general breakdown is like, I have the character on 2 layers. So I'll highlight them so it's easier to focus on it. So the purple is the character. And what I did was I broke it up because I needed to get that character in front of the tentacle. So just from a technical perspective, the technical
say that 5 times fast.
Why? So the tentacle is coming towards the screen, and I don't need to put that on separate layers necessarily, but I do need to show how the main character gets through it without intersecting it and going past it. So I had to break it up, because if anybody knows anything about like layering, you have to create a parallax so that you can just do it. And that's the most basic technical explanation. The rest is, you know, the normal way you animate. Like, I just made the keyframes from the boards, and I just found places where I needed to add more frames. And as somebody who doesn't animate for a living, I call this somewhere between like storyboard animating, where you basically have like your storyboard poses, and then you just add anything in between to smooth it out. And
well, I mean, to put a point on that too, like you are by vocation a director and storyboard artist.
yeah,
And you've hopped into animating and harmony. What was that like?
so much fun, Mike. Best day ever. Learning one of the most complicated and most elaborate for crafts in animation was just really easy, barely an inconvenience, you know. Just kidding, but no, it was really hard, and like it takes a lot of like being like, "Hey Maggie, can you take a look at this? I feel like there's something wrong with it, but I can't tell exactly what it is." And there's a lot of back and forth to like note things and figure it out. Like I probably must have asked Maggie to look at GIFs like a million times throughout this entire process. Whether I sent it to her with the rough animation, with the color, especially the color, and so it was just like a lot of troubleshooting and a lot of online tutorials, to be honest.
Maggie, from your point of view, what was coming up with like the color scripting for this like?
It was really fun. I definitely spent some time just kind of doing some research on like scary scenes. And we were trying to, one of the biggest challenges I think when we were doing this too was he's coming in from outside to inside. And we really wanted to emphasize the difference between, you know, this reality and the outside world versus what's happening on the inside. And so that's where a lot of this like warm and cool colors kind of came from that we really wanted to highlight. And we were playing with that throughout the short, and the color palettes change a lot. When he's in the bedroom, the color palettes change a lot. When the character, the monster character is finally calm and excited and happy to see her husband. So color plays a huge role in everything we wanted to do. And obviously we wanted to amp up the color and make it beautiful. So we tried to make it happen kind of at like the golden hour or like sunset, just so we could really play with some of those oranges and pinks and reds that are so pretty. And again, that color palette really opposes the tentacles and the blue and the cold and the iciness that's happening around the monster when she's upset or frustrated or in this other realm. So that's kind of where like the inspiration came from, and obviously everything looks so nice when you have warm and cool colors.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask, so you both started Studio Ursa. Can you tell us a little bit about Studio Ursa and what led you to start the studio?
Me being very annoying. No, it's something I've always wanted to do, and it's something that I've always wanted to do with Maggie. I mean, we both love creating, and we both have so many skill sets that aid and help lift up the other. Like, I mean, Maggie's like works for some of the biggest design brands, and like she has such a big brain for business and all the things that I'm like, huh, honey, what? Culture company, what? And she has like 10 steps ahead of me thinking, and I'm like, I want to make pretty pictures. Like, I just want to do that. I want to make pretty pictures. I want to make people care about it, and I want to do it forever. And then Maggie's like, okay, that's cool. Now, how are you going to do that? So it's just something I've always wanted to do. And like, as I discussed it and talked about it, Maggie's like, this is something I want to do, but you got to do it right. And I can probably let Maggie talk more about that, because she brought up things I couldn't even think of about like running it, like approaching it. Because like, and I'll just say this and then let her take over, is I know everything I can about pipeline, making things happen, producing art, stories, all of that. And then Maggie was like, what about everything else? But you can talk more on that, honey.
Sure. Yeah, my background is a little bit more like commercial advertising, marketing. So I've been kind of living in that world, and I love it because it's very fast paced, it's very creative, and things are generally in a short format. So, when it came time for us to talk about what we wanted to do in the future, and, we both do freelance, we both work with projects, we were like, why don't we combine forces? And one thing that I think lends itself so well to both our strengths is, animated shorts and how that can kind of tie into commercial work. And I think it's a really good bridge between what the both of us do. And it's just been a really good and interesting way forward. We're both kind of dipping our toes in very different worlds and trying to bridge them, and it's been really fun and very challenging. As husband and wife, we have pretty much the same values, but when it comes to personality and strengths and weaknesses, we couldn't be more different. So again, it's been a lot of communication challenges and personality challenges, and it's been a really rewarding experience. We're just learning a lot about each other in the process, and it's fun. It's just really fun to be able to create without too many reins and restrictions. And that's kind of what we want for our company. We want to be able to create beautiful things. We want to create and tell meaningful stories. And we just want to have fun and do what we do best, So that's, I think, kind of where Ursa stemmed from.
I think one of the things, too, that a lot of people don't realize about commercial animation is that per minute of footage, commercial animation tends to have much higher budgets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're here for that.
Yeah. I'm definitely here for getting more of a budget to focus on something way more beautiful that you can do on a very, very intense pipeline of you got to make 12 to 24 episodes, or you got to get this brand design done in 10 minutes, and part of in addition to what Maggie was saying, part of our want is to just be able to craft these meaningful things. Because even in advertising, I've witnessed some of the most amazing short animated stories in advertising for a brand I didn't even know about, and now I'll never forget it, because they've achieved a human tale. I don't know, to sell me laundry detergent, what, And then there's just so much opportunity with the amount you can do with more in less time. And that focus to that short story aspect that Maggie was talking about, you can just it's just such a beautiful time frame to be able to approach stories like that. And again, to what Maggie was saying about strength and weaknesses, is it's really funny because you think you're yeah, no, I got this, right? And then you got somebody who's your partner going, no, you do, you got it. But what about all these other things we need to talk about for that thing? And then you're like, oh, shit, yeah, you're right. Okay, let's evolve this plan a little bit to approach that. And it's one of those things where I just love the approach of attacking a problem from two different perspectives that are completely different, and then approaching it with solutions you would never have been able to do on your own because of just, the human condition, right? Of only kind of seeing from your lens until you experience other perspectives. But yeah, it just makes everything better. It just makes the creativity better. It makes the story better. And it's just such a more fun process to work in. And with our studio and what we want to do with it and how we want to approach it, it's one of those things where it can be one thing, but it can be something even more incredible when you add the other aspects of that that goal, and how goals change and what they could be and what you originally saw it to be and now what it will be. And I ramble a lot more than Maggie. She's way more succinct already. That's a benefit.
So animation can be a very self-effacing medium, where it's like, hey, look at the work, don't look at me, look at the work. But My Wife the Monster has a very handcrafted art style, where like you can even see in some of the shots like the construction lines of the characters. Do you feel that it's important to make the craft that goes into the animation visible?
Yes, I do. And like I was telling Mike about this earlier, honey, but I was like, it's a little bit of form and function sort of thing. Like functionally, I was doing my best to animate, and animation, for anyone who knows, is a very, very time. Um, wow, I can't remember the word I was going to say. Time-consuming
Yeah,
process. So
it's labor intensive.
Labor intensive, extremely labor intensive, and when you're doing it, getting your rough animation down, and then going to the next step of cleaning and making all the lines perfectly refined. Sometimes it just feels like there's a loss. And when I'm animating this, when I was doing the cleanup and everything, I wanted the lines to still be clear, but that roughness you're talking about was a bit of like, I liked how it looked because I'm so used to boarding and it being rougher. And also some line quality is an oversight as well. Like it's not entirely like, haha, look at how smart I am at making this look so rough, right? I was trying to get it done too. And this next round, this next animation, Maggie is pretty excited to jump into some of the cleanup aspects with me. And she is way more attentive to detail than I am. And I know it's going to be a lot cleaner, but having that balance of retaining some of that human quality in the drawings and making it refined enough to feel like the best of both worlds is what we're going to explore. What do you think, Maggie?
Yeah, no, totally. A big part of this is just experimenting, honestly. We're still kind of trying to find our voice, and we're still just playing and having fun and seeing what we can do. Again, we're doing this in our downtime for free. So it's like, what's quick, what's easy, what's beautiful, what do we want to do? What do we want to have fun with? What do we want to experiment with? So I think for this one in particular, we wanted to see those construction lines. We wanted to know what it looked like. We wanted to play with color, and we wanted to see kind of just what would happen. And honestly, I think the next one, like Jake is saying, we're probably going to switch it up a little bit. But I don't think it's ever going to lose that handcrafted look and feel, no matter which way it is. We kind of want to experiment with styles and have fun. And, we are making it by hand. I think it's great to show that. And, it is a labor of love. And I think it's exciting that you can see it.
Yeah, well, I also think too that there is maybe a growing appreciation for a sort of rougher style. I feel like the xerography era, where you had like films like 101 Dalmatians and Secret of Nim, where because of the xerography process, you could actually see the construction lines too. And also more modern attempts to capture that style with like Lackadaisy have made a little bit of a comeback in terms of like it's coming into fashion, either through nostalgia or through an appreciation of the craft. Just what's your take on sort of the like, I guess, roughness as aesthetic?
I love to see it personally, and I'll pass it to Jake too. I love to see it because it's so human, right? In the day and age where we can render in 3D something that is photorealistic, I think that that has its time and place, and that's exciting and fun. But I think that in a world where things are starting to get a little samey, it's fun to see the nostalgia. It's fun to see the human element. It's fun to see that animation can still be hand drawn and still be done frame by frame. It's so rare, I feel like, these days, that I think it's exciting to want to embrace it.
100% agree. I would rather see people exploring and pushing the medium, even in a way that feels like it's throwback and nostalgic. But I wouldn't even call it very nostalgic, because every line you draw on paper you can feel the effort of that task. And with independent animation like Lackadaisy, using it as part of the creative process, I think it's a beautiful approach to the medium. I love to see people doing that and playing with it and pushing it to see how the final effect can still garner something really fun and beautiful, right? And it's also a taste thing, you know? Like some people love seeing those construction lines. I every day in my life I see construction lines because of storyboarding, and so it's a comfort for me to see lines that aren't perfectly clean, but at the same time there is a level of refinement that I really enjoy, you know. And so trying to find that balance, and like Maggie was saying, continue to explore that, is like that's the point of humans creating art in the first place, seeing how they can bring levels that seem inhuman or keep it at levels that feel very human. And just seeing which level and approach fits you as an artist is probably the most fun you can have, and some of the best exploration you can do. So I love to see that stuff. I love rough lines. I love all of that, you know, and I really like Harmony's ability to let me do that. So I am so used to the vector drawings, but even though they're vector, you know, a lot of people like those like softer rasterized lines, like what's it called, like the Photoshop brushes that have
like an airbrush.
Like an airbrush, yeah. And I am excited to play with that in the future, with some of the animation we do. But I am just so used to vector, and I love the hard edges you can get with it, and the movement you can get with it. That's why our first short is very vector and very Harmony, because I live and die by Storyboard Pro, and you know, Dear Diary plug Toon Boom products. I live on them for day-to-day life, for my job, and all of these shorts. But like, it allows you an avenue to push that medium and see how you can make it feel human with the aid of these programs that allow you to do different things. And the versatility in that lets you play around with it. And again, I'm rambling to where I don't even remember what I was talking about, except that I love playing around with the line quality of animation, and being a human medium is very exciting to see all the independent projects, like you mentioned, Mike, come out with their own versions of how they would like to do animation. So it's just fun.
Yeah, and Maggie, from your point of view, do you feel it's important to make the craft that goes into these projects visible?
I think it can be, yes. I mean, it can go either way, of course, but for what we're doing, I think it's important, because we're just two human beings pumping this out, and I don't want to hide that. You know, I think it's incredible what we're capable of, and I think it's, you know, there's a lot of play involved. I like the rough and the construction. Like Jake said, you know, he's a board artist. That's his background. That's how he constructs things. And I enjoy the rough construction lines because it helps you see the weight. It helps you see the motion. It's almost gestural, like a figure drawing. And, you know, we both have art backgrounds. I love figure drawing. You know, there's so much beauty and freedom in it. And I think a lot of it just kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, I am obsessed with figure drawing form as well. Like Maggie said, it's so fun to see all those construction lines and like the shading and weight of it. Honey, what's that animation? I think it's like Woodward or whatever. It's a song that he animated, and it's a very figure drawing construction line. Oh my God. I'm so bad at remembering things, but it makes me remember that. It was one of my favorite animations. It came out years ago. Sorry.
It's one of those things where after the live stream, you're going to remember immediately.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. This is exactly what's going to happen. So like when you ask like another question, I'm probably going to be like, wait, I remember, Mike. So ask another question.
All right, here we go. Do you have advice for artists who want to create their own animated shorts?
Yeah, I just remembered the other thing. It's Thought of You by Ryan Woodward. We did it. So artists who want to make artists who want to make your own shorts. It's very hard in application, but very simple in thought, right? You have to be able to make a schedule and keep yourself on that schedule and be realistic about the time you want to put into it. Because a lot of people get overwhelmed with the daunting nature of accomplishing things and think they have to do it in a day or it won't get done, but it's chipping away. You're making a sculpture. You're not 3D printing it in an hour. It's something you really need to stick with and make sure you hit the goals you want. And if you have a full-time job, if you have no job, and your full-time job is looking for a job, or you work a part-time job, you have family responsibilities, you have limitations for any other reason that you need to figure out, be realistic to what your life situation is and accommodate that in how you approach organizing your schedule for how you want to accomplish things. Because you can 100% do it. It's just a matter of how long. And especially if you're doing it without funding or without any, like all you need is a program and a good schedule for yourself. And that's the best recommendation, I feel like. But you can, oh, and one more thing. It doesn't matter how good it looks if you finish it. I really stand by that. Like, you can hate it all you want, but finish it and then apply it to the next one. Maggie, take it away.
Yeah, no, I this is another thing where we both have like such different perspectives. And I know I have the very classic artist perspective of being a perfectionist and struggling with that. And I think that it's so important to get over that mentality of like, oh, if I don't do it right, or oh, if it's not beautiful, or if it's not the way I envisioned it, it's not worth doing. But I don't think that's ever true. And I think that's such an important mentality to work on and get over, because it's still you. You know, at the end of the day, we're artists, and we have this voice, we have this medium, and I don't think you should ever get discouraged by the look and feel of something. If you're creating something and maybe it's a little jankier than you expected, it's still yours. It's your product, and it's yours. You should be proud of it. And at the end of the day, it's an exercise. Everything you do, everything you create, the next time you do it, you'll be better. And I really hope people focus on that part of themselves, of the artist journey, which is just enjoy it, do it, make it, get it done, and, move on and keep going.
Yeah, and it's almost like universally true that like taste develops faster than skill. So like if you don't look back at your previous work and think like, oh, I could do this better, then you're not really growing.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I was joking with you earlier, but after making this short, I think I have a list of about 1 million things I hate, I want to change, I think looks like shit. I was like how can you do that? But I made that list. Right? I made that list. And when the next one comes around, I will be doing my best to apply as many of those things that I thought on this one, and seeing how I can approach it in the next one, and how Maggie and I can approach it. Because, like each of you, everyone has a different, like you have different roles in things, and you think about what you did. And I look at this and I'm like, oh, Jake, you could have drawn that so much better. But I'll just bring it to the next one. Otherwise, nothing will ever get done like Maggie.
Sometimes you got to know when to call it. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I have to say, like, I really enjoyed the short. I liked the mix of, like, action and the sort of expectation of horror that was then subverted by, like, this really wholesome moment. And I just think it was a really sweet short.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what we were hoping people would take away from it.
Yeah. And the fact that you took that away means we did it.
So we are running out of time, but I just want to ask, where can our viewers see more of your work on the web?
We have a website, studioursa.com, and we've just been uploading stuff on YouTube, and that's where the web series will be. And Matt, you can probably take this away because you're the master of design and showcasing.
You know what? We're still kind of getting our sea legs with social media and our presence. So definitely bear with us. But for now, studioursa.com, and on YouTube, we also are Studio Ursa kind of productions. So for now, those are the two places you can find us. But stay tuned because we'll have more social soon.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jake and Maggie, for taking time to discuss your work on My Wife the Monster, and thank you to our audience for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's discussion, you might also be interested in Toon Boom Animation's online training courses. You can learn new skills from character rigging, compositing, and traditional animation from professional industry artists, and you can find out more at toonboom.com/training. Thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time.